Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for joining the county today for the resources and COVID-19 update. We're doing this today specifically for the arts and entertainment industry. My name is Crystal Bethke, and I'm with the Office of Economic Development here at the county. The county held a similar webinar for our arts community in September, and we were asked to do so again as a follow-up near the holidays. So that's what we're doing here this morning. With us today to provide an update on the COVID-19 and county-specific information is Public Health Officer Dr. Kassirier. In addition, our Environmental Management Department Director Maria Wooden and her team, Jania and Rolando, will be providing an update on our county reporting arts guidance and other helpful resources. We're going to end today with an update from the Office of Economic Development regarding upcoming funding opportunities as it relates to the American Rescue Plan Act funds. Please note that throughout the duration of our presentations, we're happy to answer any questions you have in our Q&A box below. And if we're unable to get to any of your questions live today, we will follow up with answers to this entire group through email afterwards. We're going to begin with Dr. Kassirier this morning. Dr. K, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. I also want to mention that Nick Maury is joining me from Public Health, and he will be able to stay on a little longer because I have to jump off for another call, but he will be able to respond to questions about any of the protocols that we have. So I'm just going to give a very brief update about the numbers. Hopefully you are all aware of our dashboard and have been following the trends. We are at 165,141 cases of COVID-19 reported. We're averaging about 200 cases per day, and our case rate is at 14.1 daily case rate per 100,000. If you notice, our numbers have ticked up in this past week. And we think that this is a follow-up from the holiday gatherings. In checking anecdotally with our community testing sites, we're aware that a lot of the people that were showing up for testing had either been traveling or had gatherings during the Thanksgiving holidays. So we're continuing to monitor that. With the deaths, we're at 2,467, and we're averaging about 3 additional deaths per day. But also, again, to note that there usually is a lag with the deaths because there's a lot of additional steps in confirming that the death is actually due to COVID-19. You may also have heard about the news that we, Public Health, last Friday was notified by the Stanford University researchers that the Omicron variant had been identified in sewage water. This is a surveillance system that had been set up earlier in the year, and they had been taking samples from different areas, including samples from Sacramento County. And so they did detect the Omicron variant. We have not identified any individual with the variant as yet, but the fact that it is in the sewage water is an indicator that we do have it in our community. We continue to monitor the news about the Omicron variant. It is a variant of concern, and because of how rapidly the number of cases have increased and how quickly it has spread to other countries, especially after it was first identified in South Africa. But so far, it seems like most of the people who are getting sick or who have been identified with the Omicron variant have relatively mild disease, and we are not aware of any hospitalizations or deaths, but we continue to monitor. And again, we just ask that everyone continue to take the measures that we know are able to keep us safe, regardless of what variant is circulating, which is to get vaccinated and boosted if you are eligible for the booster, to stay home if you're sick and get tested, and wear a mask indoors. Sacramento County still has a masking policy, and then wash your hands and avoid crowds, poorly ventilated areas, especially for people that have medical conditions that put them at risk. With that, I'll turn it over to Nick to say a few words, and then we'll turn it back to Crystal. Thank you.
Sure. So I'll just add a note, since we are, the holiday season is upon us, and together with our partners at Environmental Management, we do have holiday guidance this year, similar to last year, now that we're into our second holiday season with COVID. But just a reminder that, many of the measures that we've been talking about for the last year and a half or so continue to be effective. And so we encourage folks, again, like Dr. Kasiri said, to be fully vaccinated, certainly prior to any holiday gatherings. We talk a lot about reducing the risk of transmission by gathering outdoors, which I realize becomes more of a challenge this time of year, especially with weather. But weather permitting, it's always better to have gatherings outdoors if possible. Limiting the number of folks who are at any given gathering. And then, as Dr. Kasiri mentioned, very important that, if somebody's symptomatic, and really whether that's COVID or some other illness, it's really important that they stay home so that we're not spreading that at gatherings. I think that's all I have right now.
Thank you, Dr. Kasiri and Nick. We really appreciate that update. Like we said before, if you do have follow-up questions, go ahead and ask them in the Q&A. But at this time, we're going to go ahead and move into our update from our Environmental Management Department, and I'll turn it over to Marie.
Hi, everyone. I'm the director for Sacramento County Environmental Management Department. And in this emergency, we have been providing support to public health, Dr. Kasiri's team, working very closely with them, providing guidance to the community and to business industry groups. So you were selected as one based on your feedback. And this kind of came through economic development back to us. We were getting the questions. And so even though the state did not really have specific guidance, when they went to Beyond the Blueprint framework, we went ahead and made local guidance for your group because of the questions. So it's good to get feedback. We try to be responsive. We always run everything through Dr. Kasiri, sorry, that's our nickname for her, and Nick, just to make sure, yes, we want to put out some local guidance. So feedback is always very, very helpful. At this time, it's been relatively quiet. We do have this new variant, the Omicron variant. So we're carefully watching that with Dr. Kasiri to see what kind of impact that will be. But the only guidance we really created and updated was the winter holiday guidance. And Jania posted that link there. There's actually two documents. There's a more formal document and a kind of a community friendly document. So Jania, do we have both of those links, or did you just post the friendly one or the more community one?
I have the link is for the full guidance document, and I will also add the flyer too. So
Okay.
They have both in there.
So that's really what we worked on during this winter. The one thing I will say is Jania's going to go over our Beyond the Blueprint framework guidance document. It's pretty lengthy, but it's very detailed based on the questions that we were receiving. So we try to make it useful, and she'll show you how to navigate through it if you have some questions. And the one thing I want to highlight, and she'll talk about it briefly too, is CDC's travel guidance, because it's rapidly changing. And so you can, if you're going to travel outside the country or even maybe look at the states, they are constantly updating it. And I think they're working on new guidance for when you come back into the country. So that's just something I want to highlight. They just added more countries level 4 yesterday. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jania, and she'll give you some information on our holiday guidance and Beyond the Blueprint document.
All right, thank you, Marie. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that you'll be able to see the document. All right. Just double checking with the panel. Everything came up okay? All right, perfect. So this is the guidance for performing arts and entertainment, and this is for Beyond the Blueprint. And as Marie had mentioned, it is a little bit of a lengthy document. It's about 6 pages long. So I won't go through the entire document and read through it, but I'm going to bring up some points and highlight some points to it. So in most of our guidance, if there's anything in particular from the local health order that's specific to Sacramento County, we put it at the very top. So in this case, effective July 30th, 2021, there's face coverings are required to be worn indoors. And so that's listed in the very beginning of the document. We also included a link there so that it can take you directly to that public health order and be familiar with all the specifics that it contains. Moving on, the document then starts to talk about COVID-19 in the community and then some basic prevention measures. And so these are some measures that we're all familiar with, that we've been dealing with for the past few years in terms of using, providing outdoor options, hand sanitizer, keeping tables or chairs separated, making sure hand washing sinks have stocked with soap and paper towels. And so this is just a reiteration of these basic prevention measures and that they're highly encouraged. The next, we move on to what the requirements are. So as we mentioned before, there is a requirement in Sacramento County that everyone is to wear a face covering or a mask when they're indoors. So it's important that all patrons wear a face covering, and that's in family entertainment centers, theaters, any type of indoor setting, regardless of their vaccination status. Posting clear signs, easy to read signs at entry points so that it's communicated, and then also providing face coverings so that any people who come or any patrons who come that do not have a face covering, that they have that available to them. Then this next section talks about the guidance for the use of face coverings. And this is from the Department of Public Health, and this links to it. So it's the latest information from the California Department of Public Health for the guidance for face coverings. We do talk about performers may perform without face coverings, but it is recommended that there's distance between performers and the audience, and then also verification of immunization or proof of a negative test before the performance, if possible. This does not apply to K-12 schools. The next section of the guidance talks about mega events, and this is really where a lot of the requirements come from right now in terms of any requirements coming from the state. So mega events are termed either as indoor mega events or outdoor mega events. Indoor mega events are attendees greater than 1,000, and outdoor is attendees greater than 10,000. So we do have a specific guidance just for mega events, and this links to it. So for indoor mega events, verification is required, and or a negative test result within 72 hours prior to the start time of the event. The results must be available prior to entry, and children under 2 are not required to have this testing requirement. Self-attestation is not allowed to be used, and beginning December 1st, all attendees age 18 and over need to provide identification that they are the individual presenting that proof of vaccination or negative test result. For outdoor mega events, testing must be conducted within 72 hours of the event, and then it's the same that the results of the test must be made available prior, children under 2. Now this is recommended. As before with indoor mega events, it's required. Outdoor mega events, it's just recommended. For outdoor settings, again, it's the same with the not using the self-attestation, and then attendees over the age of 18 to show proof of verification of their identity. And that is if the venue is deciding to use the requirement for vaccination or proof of negative test result. Sacramento County Public Health Order does have a requirement for wearing face coverings at outdoor mega events if there are 50% of the structure has adjacent impermeable walls. So that would be something like concourses or concession stands. So again, there's a link to the public health order that gives more information specifically on that requirement. It is recommended that information should be prominently displayed for communications. Attendees follow CDPH guidance for face coverings, and venues make a mask available upon request. The next section of the guidance talks about the emergency temporary standards, which is a Cal OSHA requirement. So this links to Cal OSHA's website, and so all of the detailed information can be found there in terms of what is required for employers. We did include a checklist for workplace workers and visitors, which helps to kind of go through some of the Cal OSHA requirements and then provides a guidance in this kind of checklist format. So it's a little bit easier for employers to go through it and say, okay, these are the things that I need to do, or these are the things we've taken care of. So this section goes through what the workplace employer checklist would contain. And the next section is for the employees. I'm sorry, for the employers. And then another section for what the workers should do. We've also linked it for Title 8 sections, which is Cal OSHA. So each of the individual sections for that emergency temporary standard are listed there, so that can provide the full information. The next section talks about control measures and screening, and a lot of this is very similar to what we've been doing for the past few years. Recommending frequent hand washing, using disposable gloves, posting signs, using social media, websites, text, email to communicate requirements or recommendations, and reminding visitors to bring face coverings. Cleaning and disinfection, cleaning of high traffic areas, cleaning of commonly used surfaces, establishing cleaning and disinfection protocols of personal work areas, discouraging sharing of items, avoid sharing between shifts or individuals, ensuring sanitary facilities remain operational and stocked at all times. Those are bathrooms, that they have soap, paper towels, hot water, and then providing sanitizer dispensers. At the end of this document, we list a variety of resources: Sacramento County Public Health, CDPH, which is California Department of Public Health, Cal OSHA, BERC, which is Sacramento Business and Environmental Resource Center, and then of course our department, Environmental Management Department. If there are any questions, we're happy to help, happy to answer questions. Feel free to give us a call. These are the numbers listed for planning a mega events. We're happy to help out with that. There's the COVID-19 hotline telephone number, and then of course Cal OSHA consultation telephone number.
So Jania, there was a question, how do they get the link to this document?
I can put that in the chat.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right, so then moving on, I'm not going to go through this entire document because again, it's lengthy and it's a lot of the information is the same. I'll put this in the chat as well. This is the mega events guidance for Beyond the Blueprint. So this gets more specific with the information, but a lot of it's very similar to what we just talked about. So I'll include that in the link as well. And the last document I wanted to bring up, again, I'll link this one as well too, is the Beyond the Blueprint, and this is what's called reference chart. And so as Marie had mentioned before, we have done this kind of type of guidance documents throughout for various business sectors as we've gone through this COVID-19 pandemic. And so this reference chart compiles all of them into one, so it's helpful. Each one of these is a link to the section of the document. It's 29 pages long, and it really covers a lot of information. It covers the public health orders, it covers Cal OSHA, it covers indoor mega events, outdoor mega events, and then gets into some of the business sectors or other types of sectors: schools, childcares, day camps, places of worship, of course, the performing arts, overnight camps, youth sports. So it's kind of it's a compilation of all of our documents we put together, and it's listed resource information and links, and it'll take you back to our website and take you to the specific guidance documents. The one I wanted to highlight is the CDC travel guidance. So just by clicking on the topic, it'll take you directly there. And so it does have all of the links that will go to the various information. So that'll be helpful. As Marie had mentioned, we try very hard to keep up with it. And working with public health, we make sure that there's a lot of communication back and forth, that the information we're providing is the most current information. But as we all know, it changes, and when it changes quickly. So we try to keep up with it. To CDC guidelines, I'm just going to go ahead and pull up the web page here. And so Marie had mentioned there are some requirements and some change in travel. And so this will link you to that web page, and that you can see anytime that there's an update with it. There's a new update starting December 6th. All air passengers, regardless of vaccination status, must show a negative COVID-19 test no more than 1 day before travel to the United States. So this is a resource that can be helpful in trying to navigate the requirements and getting to the most current version and current information. Marie, would you like to add anything on that?
Jania, okay, I know you talked about it. You were very fast, rapid speaker.
I'm a rapid speaker.
I'm a little slow. So how again do I navigate quickly through this document? Can you explain that again?
Absolutely. And I'll slow down. Thank you for the feedback. So in this document, there are each one of the topics in the table of contents will link to the specific portion of the document that where it contains. So for example, mega events or indoor mega events, if you click on it, it'll take you to the indoor mega event section.
That is so helpful. That's genius because I don't have time to be scrolling up and down. So,
So we'll go back up. We'll do one more. And let's do performing arts. Again, that's on page 24, and that links it directly to the performing arts section right here. So this link will go directly to the performing arts guidance document.
okay. There is a question, maybe Nick can help us out with this one. What are the requirements for theater performers ages 1st grade through 12th grade?
Oh, great question, and I'm sure that's partially prompted by we specify that some of the exemption for masks for performers does not that's listed in the performing arts guidance does not apply to K-12 settings. So the difference is not so much about age group, but the setting itself. So if we're talking about a K through 12 setting, so a performing arts event that's being done as part of a school event, so either at the school or at an offsite venue, those are subject to the California Department of Public Health's face covering requirements for K-12 settings. And so those, there are no exemptions there. Everyone would need to be masked, including performers. Technically, if it's not affiliated with the school and it's a community event and you have youth performers, they could follow the same guidance that's listed out in the performing arts guidance, where they, the performers could go without masks. We would recommend, again, distancing. Ideally, you're distancing the performers from each other and also from the audience, and recommending that they either be fully vaccinated or tested immediately, prior to the performance.
Okay. There was another question. Is it true Sacramento County schools such as Folsom Unified School District and Elk Grove Unified School District are open to their theater facilities for performers?
I don't have any specific information about their plans for their theater facilities, so can't speak to that. I will say that there's been a lot of interest in kind of the state mask requirements for schools. They recently made some adjustments to their guidance for some exemptions for indoor sports, specifically basketball and volleyball, where the competitors in those sports are able to do so without masks if they are enrolled in a weekly testing program. And so we did that locally, and the state has made that adjustment. So a lot of questions have come up about whether there are plans to extend that exemption to other activities such as performing arts. I think the state is definitely considering that, but no news on that. But I don't know anything specifically about plans for opening facilities.
Okay, thanks, Nick. Is there any other questions regarding the information we've presented so far? Now, Rolando Villarreal, he is our plan reviewer. So what we've been doing throughout this pandemic, and this was creative thinking here, because we were receiving so many questions from the community. What can I do regarding a parade, or what can I do this or that? So we created kind of a plan check. We copied our plan check that we do for restaurant plans and all the other plans that we review. And I said, why not do it for community events? So we do it as a free service. So if you are having a large mega event and you just want advice, hey, here's our mega event. This is what we plan to do. We want to check just to make sure that we've covered everything. You can contact Rolando or the information that Jania gave you, and it will funnel to Rolando. And I think he has another helper, and they will review your plan and give you any feedback. So anyway, it's a free service.
Great. All right, we're going to keep the Q&A open, everyone. So please, again, feel free to ask those questions if they come to mind. We're going to go ahead and do an update on our current county funding opportunities. As many of you know, the county has and will receive approximately $301.4 million from the American Rescue Plan Act, or most commonly referred to as ARPA. The county is receiving this in 2 installments, with 50% or $150 million already being sent over to the county. That was done in May of 2021. The balance is expected to come in May of 2022. On November 2nd, at a public hearing, the County Board of Supervisors did approve our county executive's proposal for how the county should spend the first installment of the $150 million in funds. The county executive's recommendations were for priorities that were based on input that we received from community surveys, as well as department recommended needs. The top priority was homeless and housing, the second being health, and the third being economic response. Staff throughout the county is currently developing recommended projects from those 3 categories, with each of them being a priority area. We'll return to the board in January with very specific recommendations on how each of those will be broken down. A couple of areas that could impact our arts and entertainment industry is granting. We are currently working on several small business grant programs, some with ARPA funding, and in addition to some state funding that could potentially be allocated. The Office of Economic Development has submitted a proposal to receive up to $1.9 million from the state for regranting to micro businesses. All of that information should come in about January, so we will keep you all updated on that. The county does update this information online through the county website, as well as through press releases. Anytime, feel free to reach out to our staff directly, but please stay tuned on that. So at this time, we're gonna, again, open it up for any additional questions, and then we'll close if there's nothing more.
Okay, I see a question. I think this is for Nick. What is the preference for type of testing to be used, PCR or rapid test?
Yeah, there's actually been a lot of analysis of that. Initially the PCR was really regarded as the gold standard, but rapid antigen tests have really found a lot of utility over the last year, and the state has looked closely at some of the results there, and they really regard them very highly and now consider a rapid antigen test to be able to stand alone on its own and not require any PCR analysis. So either one can be used in most cases.
Okay. I think it was a mega event planning question. So if you have any questions, there's the number right there for you to call and just do a check, or you're not really sure, you want some feedback. Here's a question from Melanie. How do we get on an email list for future meetings?
Yeah, certainly, Melanie. Everyone who is participating today will be sent follow-up emails for if we do host another one. So you're good on that. I do see one asking if ARPA funding will be used for the creative community and sustainability projects. As far as the creative community, most definitely. We do have our standard 3-year program that we partner with the City of Sacramento on for Cultural Arts Awards. If you're not familiar with that, please reach out and I can give you information there. That's going to be upcoming at the beginning of 2022. But in addition, specific to ARPA, yes, the creative community is going to be a focus of our small grants. As far as sustainability projects, Chase, you'd be better to know if there's anything coming up, not necessarily with ARPA, but maybe any state funding or anything like that. I'm not aware of at this moment.
As far as sustainability projects go, there's not much going on in the realm of that. I know there are advances with agencies and organizations like SMUD, who is working on their 2030 zero carbon goal, which is going to be a huge influence in the Sacramento region for different sustainable projects and different companies to invite certain creative ideas into that realm. But as far as we're concerned right now, there's nothing on the horizon, but we'll let you know when it comes up.
Great. And we do know that the infrastructure bill that was just passed does have sections in there for sustainability. It's not far enough along for us to be able to speak to anything, but that will definitely be coming out of that bill, hopefully in 2022 and 2023. So please stay tuned on that. We do see another question from Melanie. What website can we go to about the latest information on grants for the arts? So I will send that out, Melanie. That's going to be through the city of Sacramento specifically, and we'll post it on our webpage when it is released, but we'll get you that information. All right. Do we have any other questions, everyone?
It does say our large 160 to 180 voice Sacramento Choral Society and Orchestra Chorus is eager to resume rehearsals starting in late January 2022. All singers must show proof of vaccination, wear masks at rehearsals and performances. It's difficult for us to social distance in our rehearsal and performance setting. Any additional thoughts and advice for us?
Nick, that's probably for you, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I think the measures that you outlined there are probably the most important and effective ones. So I think really adherence to those is probably going to be, a big part of it. So you have indicated that that folks will be wearing face coverings. So I think, paying attention to wearing them properly is a big part of it. I know we've all been places where you see a lot of people wearing chin straps, which obviously aren't very effective. But beyond those measures, if you're kind of limited by the space itself, there's probably not a whole lot else you can do. I think I would probably remind participants that if they are experiencing any symptoms of the illness, to make sure that they're not coming in, and to just be extra vigilant, on those same lines, if they have family members that are ill, to pay attention to that and not be coming in, because if you do have somebody who's ill that does come, that is going to complicate things significantly in terms of potentially spreading illness, and then also creating situations where folks may need to quarantine.
Thanks, Nick. We did get asked another question from Lori. When will the Arpa grant application separate from the Office of Arts and Culture grant be announced? So those programs will be recommended to the board. We anticipate in January, and then we would make those announcements after they are formally approved. We hope to kick off as soon as possible. So we will be doing a very extensive outreach effort through all of our community-based organizations and all of our social media platforms. So we will make sure that you are aware of those dates when they are released. Thank you. All right, everyone. Don't see any more questions coming through this time. So unless our panelist has any other final thoughts, we're going to wrap for the day and say thank you for participating.
And I just want to add that if we do have any changes to the performing arts guidance, we work on it as quickly as we can, get it approved by public health, and then we will send it out. So with an explanation as to what has changed. So, but right now, everything is just staying as is.
Thanks, Marie. All right, everyone, please, in addition, feel free to send in feedback on today's meeting and follow up information that you might need. We're always here to help. Thanks so much.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.